rolling in the Jeep, dust in the air. Clay Road adventures, we're almost there. Chatting with potters, spinning their wheels.
It's time. It started very early with the Waterloo Guild. And I don't know how many workshops with Waterloo. It started as just a demonstration workshop, and they invited me back for a series of critiques. And what we did was, and I was living outside of, what was I? I was living out in Sterling outside of Belleville at the time, I think. And I was driving all the way from there up to Waterloo for this one-day workshop, and I think I'd stay over. But the workshops were every 2 weeks, and we'd do a critique. Start out with a demonstration, and then I did a little critique, and they wanted to have me back for a critique. And the good folks from the Waterloo Guild decided they want a series of critiques, which is what we ended up doing. And we would do a critique together, and then 2 weeks later, I would come back, and they would talk about what had been done in the previous critique and how they viewed that information for the new pieces they'd made in the past 2 weeks. And I think that we did that 5 times. We had 5 different sessions. That was early on in my career after I'd moved to Canada.
Yeah. So tell us about, essentially your journey. Why did you get into pottery? Why this grabbed you when?
Yeah.
And even why did you come to Canada?
Well, I came to Canada originally because Mr. Nixon said that I should go. And I did. And I was not really worried about being drafted because I was already over the age that most of the people were being drafted. But there were a group of us I came up with 7, 8 other people, and we've bought a farm together jointly. And the farm was out in the sticks and outside of Sterling. And there's no running water, no electricity. And it was a heavy slog moving from New York City, which is where I was, to Sterling. And if I got a hankering for pizza at 10 o'clock at night, I was out of luck. So anyway, I set up my first studio in Canada there, and I had, as a student, built kilns, and I built 2 kilns for the studio at Tyler School of Art, and repaired the existing kiln. So I was interested in all of that stuff. So I was prepared to build myself a kiln, which is what I did. I built myself, and I was very interested in salt glazing at that time. And I built a 30 cubic foot catenary arch salt kiln, powered by propane. And when it gave up the ghost, I thought I would move into oxidation firing for a little while till I could rebuild my salt kiln. However, in the interim, we had two little girls, and my studio burned down. Oh yeah, it was the electric kiln. The Dawson kill sitter malfunctioned, and it kept firing, and I didn't know it. I was right there. I could have turned the switch off, but I didn't because I heard the trip go ka-chunk. But I found out then that the kill sitter could fail in 2 ways. It could fail open, it could fail closed. Mine unfortunately failed open, and when I came back again, we were on a 50-acre farm, no neighbors for 3 miles. And when I came back again, it was wintertime, and I climbed up a snowbank and broke off a branch, a dead branch that I saw for kindling to start a fire in the little wood stove that I had. And I walked right up to the edge of the blackened pit. And then I thought to myself, oh, it burned down. It took me, I could not believe it. So anyway, that meant that I had to continue with not salt firing because I didn't have the space anymore, but continue with oxidation firing. And I had decided that wood ash in oxidation glazes could possibly be a similar warm feeling that I got through the salt glaze. And I did many tests and fired and developed a formula for ash and learned things about it. Actually wrote an article for Ceramics Monthly about wood glaze in oxidation glazes. So I've been firing with cone 6 and some of the same techniques that I use in decorating, I kept in the new kind of firing for me. And that was the start of my career in oxidation.
But why did you select ceramics?
That's a good question too. I started out in graduate school as a painting major. And I found out that I was not a resident in Pennsylvania. And so had to pay out-of-state tuition. But I didn't find that out until I'd rented an apartment and, and, drove and rode on the bus to the school and was standing in line. And they said, oh, by the way, what you were planning to pay, and nobody helped me with this. I got that money together myself. Uh, they took it all. And I could have dropped out a year and then come back, but I was there. I had the apartment. I wanted to start. So I bit the bullet and put the money down and did a semester at Tyler School of Art as a painting major. So at the end of that term, I found out my undergraduate degree is in art education, and I could have had to do some substitute teaching for money. But I started dating my wife then, and she worked in the cafeteria. And if I manipulated it just right, I could get in there and get fed every evening. And my my roommate, Bob Montgomery, had a lot of money. He was wiring the panels that went into helicopters that were going over Kibbe Mountain. That was his job. I wouldn't want to be in one of those helicopters that Bob wired. Anyway, so I had, and I did all of the cooking, all of the cleaning, all of his laundry, and he paid the rent. So the rent covered and the food covered. I didn't have to work. And I thought there are 3 things that I know absolutely nothing about. I know absolutely nothing about pottery. I know absolutely nothing about photography. And I know absolutely nothing about lithography. And so I thought, I look like a student. They're used to seeing me around here. I'll sit in on some classes until I get caught. And then I'll drop out and I'll get a job. Well, they never caught me. I was there for a full year before they found out that I was a student. And during that time, that's when I got hooked on making pots. I'm clumsy. I'm not very coordinated at all. And my undergraduate, I took ceramics for 2 classes and got C's both times. All my other courses, I got A's. Ceramics, I got C's because I had myself convinced that I was not coordinated enough to throw a pot. Well, I really still not got coordinated enough, but I managed. And so where am I? So I'm at Tyler, and but I'm not. I didn't want to take advantage completely. So I got to be friends with the teachers, Bob Winokur and Rudy Staffel, both wonderful, wonderful men. And uh, I offered to do all the Joe jobs in the studio because I thought I'm going to have to know how to do this stuff anyway. And so I was loading kills, mixing glazes, mixing clay. The clay was mixed by hand with a pug mill, and a really loose formula. Anyway, and to mix the dry clay in the studio, this was really. Uh, I had a hoe and a bathtub that was up on a platform, and I took the hoe back and forth, and the dust went up in the air. So I did it when the students weren't around, but I never wore a mask. And I did that for a full year. And then they found out I wasn't a student. So, I'd been making pots for loading kills, firing kills, mixing glazes, building shells, cleaning the studio, did all that stuff in a way to pay my way for what I was sitting in on. But I got the benefit of it by learning how to load a bisque kill, learning how to fire a bisque kill. And I got all of that background knowledge that you would never get just being a student. So I took the pots that I made. This is an incredibly good luck story. Took the pots that I made as not a student yet, and used it as my portfolio. And because I was such good friends with the teachers there, Bob Winokur and Rudy Staffel, I was granted the graduate assistantship, which paid all of my tuition. And if I taught 1 day, 2 days a week, I got a salary on top of it. So I got through graduate school, uh, not out of pocket at all paid for, and earned a living. Boy, I how lucky is that? Of course, it was kind of brassy. Wow. To sit in on the studio. Oh, by the way, I still know absolutely nothing about photography and photographer. It's another life.
Good. It's good. So the next area I'm looking at is what inspires your work? I mean, all of us sometimes will just, okay, I'm sitting down, I'll fill 20 bowls because I don't know what to do yet. But what inspires you to get up in the morning and decide on what you're going to produce?
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is part of my love of the field is that as a student, I realized that I could work and do the best pots that I could possibly make, and people would be still interested in buying them because they were functional. And I also felt that if I had continued being a painter, that would not have been the case if I had been a painter. I would have had to somehow compromise my work in order to make it saleable. And with ceramics, I felt I didn't have to do that. And so I worked on only the things that interested me in making pots. And I'm terribly interested in function. And a functional pot that's moderately priced is relatively easy to sell. You're not having to jump through hoops for anything. And so I've made function. But I've always only done those things that I was interested in doing. And if people came, when I first started, shopkeepers would tell me, oh, yeah, do this, but make it in purple. I mean, they'd tell me to do something. And no matter what they told me to do, I said, no, I don't do that. So I just only ever made what I felt like making. And when I walk into the studio, I say to myself, what I feel like making today. And I only make what I feel like making. And that joy, that interest, that excitement has lasted me over 50 years. Over 50 years. I still look forward to going to the studio. I do almost all the cooking here, sort of like Bob Montgomery. Uh, all the cooking here, not all cleaning. Do the laundry. Uh, and so after dinner, about 9 o'clock or so, I go back to work. It's not uncommon for me to go back to work. And I work until 11, 12 o'clock every day. I start slow. I usually don't get into the studio till 10, 11. Have a break or two in the day, cook dinner, watch TV, go back to work. That's my day. Standard. Like,
Excellent.
yeah. And it's a good 10, well, let's say now I'm slowing down a little, but it used to be a good 10, 12 hours a day, every day. No. And I enjoy every minute of it. Uh, what do I hope to convey through my work? Most of my work, there's a whole side of what I have done in the past 55 years or however long it's been that we haven't even talked about. And that's sort of non-functional sculptural work based on the vessel, based on the same kind of techniques and of throwing and hand building that I use, but I'm intentionally making pieces that can't work at all. I did, I think, 4 one-man shows starting 10 or 12 years ago. Every year or so, I do another whole gallery show in different galleries throughout Ontario of teapots that were totally non-functional. The only way to get tea out of them was with a hammer. And I had a relationship with, you're getting me into it. I had a relationship with the teapot when I began, and I had great difficulty making the first teapot. I had failure after failure after failure. I did everything wrong that you can imagine. And finally, one came out of the kiln, and I had a look at it, and it did drip. It did everything was. It didn't crack. The glaze looked ring. I was so excited. I turned it over to look at the bottom, and I dropped the lid and broke it. So anyway, uh, I've always been fascinated by making teapots. However, I hate the taste of tea. I never drink this stuff. It's vile. Ugh. So I thought by making non-functional teapots, and some of them would function sort of, but that was not their main intent. Their main intent was a teapot form based, a teapot vessel based on the teapot.
Yeah.
Ah. Well, I think the work itself is one of the things I liked about ceramics is that with care, the pieces that I've made will last way longer than I will. And so if the pieces are still in existence and perhaps even still being used, that's what I'd like the memory of me to be. My work still in use. Uh, uh, Leach, David Leach, Bernard Leach, excuse me, Bernard Leach said a pot should be appreciated within the length of the human arm. And that one stopped me in my tracks, and I had to think about that for about 5 or 6 years. And what was Leach talking about when he said that? He was, it's very important. Boy, that one statement keeps me going. It has to do with the intimacy of this material. And no other art form is, I think, as intimate as the medium of ceramics, especially functional pottery, because you actually take sustenance from it. You can't do that with the painting, or at least you should. You should have to wipe the painting down when you're done. You can't do that with a poem. You can't do that with a trumpet solo. So as an art form, I think ceramics is singularly unique in its intimacy with the viewer, with the appreciator of the work, symbolized by, or explained as Leach did, a pot should be appreciated within the length of the human arm. That means you appreciate the box right here, to the tips of your lips.
Rolling in the Jeep, dust in the air, clay road adventures, we're almost there. Chatting with potters, spinning their wheels on the clay road. On the clay road.